And we are live. Welcome, everyone. Happy Memorial Day. Thank you to all of those who have served or are serving, and big thanks to those who gave the ultimate sacrifice to give us the freedom to talk cars every Monday, among a lot of the others, a lot of other freedoms.
Damn straight.
So we're going to start off there. But Greg, how was your extended weekend?
Good. And I also echo what Chad just said. Thank you to everyone that has served or has given the ultimate sacrifice just so that Chad and I can sit here and talk to you guys about cars. It truly is an honor to be able to do this for you guys, and that we have the freedom to do so. So thank you all who have served. Other than that, it's been a wonderful Memorial Day weekend from my side. We had lots of good kiddie stuff to do. We had parties, barbecues, and today we had a nice neighborhood barbecue, which was wonderful. And can't complain. How about you? What did you end up doing?
What did I do? Saturday helped out some friends with some stuff. Yesterday I went to a nice little barbecue that was definitely needed. Today kind of just hung out. Nothing too crazy. Went for a drive this morning, which is always a good thing.
Yes.
Working on some coming soon to Shifting Lanes Garage content. So we have some good stuff coming for you guys in the next couple weeks. Should be fun. Should be interesting. Justin, Sean, how you guys doing? Welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you guys.
Yes. Welcome.
But Greg, you have some exciting stuff. Things are happening with the Polestar, if I'm not overly mistaken.
Yes. Things. So I have a tuning box for my car, and it will be installed as of tomorrow. I still have not been able to actually do it because, one, I need my car as my daily, and I haven't been able to actually do it. But that box should be going in tomorrow, which will be very interesting. And there should be a vlog on that by end of this week. Maybe it should be end of this week, either Friday or Saturday. I say it'll probably go out. And that's a cool thing for my car because TDI is the tuning company that it's literally a box you install in your car, and you connect it to like boost control sensors and what have you, and it'll actually give you 7 different maps of what the thing can do. And basically, you get 1 is like an economy tune, and 7 is a like really more aggressive tune. But if you're not actually tuning the ECU, it's just adjusting things on the fly based on how you are driving, essentially. And if you're going really aggressive, you put in a map 7, it'll give you like a sort of a full power whack. The other thing is to that, I'm going to install that box, and then I'm going to take it to the dyno, and I'm going to take it to the quarter mile, and we're going to see exactly how good the box does at doing exactly what it says it's supposed to do. So sort of some real world testing. The other side of that is I just got in touch with a guy named, his name is Philip, and he is from Sweden, and he does a lot of tuning to a lot of different Volvos. And he essentially is like a Hilton, but in Sweden. So he can tune the check engine light out of this thing, which is amazing, and also tune the actual ECU. So what I'm going to do is do the box install, do all of that. Then I'm going to purchase the other tune from Philip, who I believe does a lot of the tuning for Rika tuning here in the US or elsewhere in the world. And I'm going to take that to the dyno and that to the strip. So I'm going to get 2 real world differences for 2 different tuning types for this car. It's not going to be crazy, so we're not going to go like, balls to the wall, insane power or anything, but it'll give a really cool kind of difference between what a box or like a chip tune would be, and a real, reflash, remap ECU tune. So I'm excited to do that. That should be coming over the next 4 to 6 weeks for all of that. So, because it's going to be install, dyno, strip, deinstall, tune, dyno, strip. So it's like 6 or 7 videos coming up on just that whole sort of scenario. So it's gonna be really fun. I'm excited to see what the differences between the two are.
So the tuner you're putting into it is basically one of those. It's tricking the ECU into doing things. Is that kind of what I'm gathering?
Sort of, yeah. It basically is. It's taking boost and fuel and air, and it's sort of just manipulating that to give more power, essentially, before it hits the ECU.
Gotcha.
And then the ECU sort of adapts for it. And then the other one is like literally just your normal tune. It's just a reflash of the actual ECU.
Okay, gotcha. Hey, I'm picking up what you're putting down. Andrew.
Yeah, I can show it to you. It's right here, actually.
Andrew Marshall, welcome to the stream. Marshall asks, what can I do with an old set of wheels or rims? I would honestly Google those rims, or as close as you can get, see if what they're listing for on eBay, and eBay, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, throw them up. Set it to however you want, whether you want them to take care of shipping, et cetera, et cetera. But that's usually I did that with a couple set of the Volvo wheels. So that's what I would recommend to it. Or if you're handy with a welder, you can make some fun car related art out of it.
I was going to say a wheel coffee table would be really nice.
That would also be true. Andrew asks, can you do the, I guess twofold, can you use that box to tune the older T6s? I'm not familiar with their ECUs or what have you, but can you do either? I'm assuming the old Volvo stuff is still flashable.
Oh yeah, you can definitely flash the old Volvo stuff. It's just the tuners are kind of few and far between. So I'm not sure who even does it anymore. But I don't know if they make the box for the old T6s, but this is the company. It's just TDI tuning system. And basically they send you a nice little package, nice little box, right? Inside there's some wiring to connect wherever have you. And this is your box. You kind of get this thing, and you get 7 different maps right here. You can hit the map differences with plus and minus if you want to go into your engine bay, or they make a Bluetooth, so you can connect to the box itself via Bluetooth and just change the maps. The one nice thing about the Bluetooth is that you can actually send them data, which is cool. So if you feel like the map on this thing is running too lean, or if it's running too rich or whatever, it just doesn't feel right, you can actually send them some data via the Bluetooth, but you have to have Bluetooth from the thing. So again, this is not a sponsored thing. This is just something I bought with my own money. Yeah, it's a cool thing. So you just plug it in here, and then all of this stuff. So I'll show you kind of what it is. You get a ton of different like wires here, and you have your male and female ends. You sort of connect these to this box, and then all of these other plugs go into, at least for me, it goes into fuel one, and then the 2 boost controllers. So it gives you like full directions. It's a great company. I talked to the guys over there. They're really cool, and it sort of shows you like what to do where. This one's a little inaccurate because the one that I have to do, I actually have to take off this pipe here, the charge pipe, and get underneath the air box. So it's a little bit more complicated than what these instructions say, but this literally it's a cam sensor and 2 boost sensors, and that's it. And you're basically just making sure that the timing is right, the boost is right, and it's giving you some good stuff. Andrew, specifically to you, if you want to go on tdituning.com, they should have a couple of drop-down menus on their website, so you can find out if your car is tunable with this. If not, you can try to get in touch with other tuners that are out there for the P2 platform. I know Alex Sanders Pereira is actually getting really into the tuning. He was at Carlisle, so if you want to reach out to him as well, he might be able to help you out. And that's it.
Awesome.
Yes, and Sean, you're right. Hilton used to do P2 tuning, and I believe Elevate. Yes, both Hilton and Elevate, I believe, still do P2 tuning. It's just that no one can really kind of get in touch with Hilton right now. He's sort of gone MIA, the same way he did in kind of 2018. I haven't been able to get in touch with him, nor has really anyone else. So take that as you will. And Chad just dropped the link to the TDI tuning website in chat if you want to check it out. Again, not sponsored, just helpful for the community. And that's it. I'm going to post that we are live on Instagram. No, we're not on Instagram, but I'm going to post as a story that we're live on Facebook and for people to come watch us.
Here we see the Gregson in his natural habitat as he works his phone furiously. Notice the speed and dexterity at which he moves his thumbs, truly experiencing this type of behavior.
Look, shut up, David Attenborough. Get out of here.
He's
Chadson Attenborough.
I believe he spotted us. Oh man! So
I have.
Someone said that. Who? Sean. Sean says all your stuff is simpler than what I have to do to tune my engine when I'm at that point. Yikes. It does sound like Volvo right now is getting to a point where you're eventually going to have to go standalone for a lot of these platforms just because people can tune a Haltech. You don't necessarily need to be specifically a Volvoista. Yeah, and then like you said, he said P2 tuning for Hilton and Elevate. That's always been the thing with Hilton. Usually used to be good from what I understand, but
yeah,
I haven't had any recent experience with Elevate, so please take this for whatever it's worth. But I hear a lot of stories about just hard parts, let alone a tune. But that might even be like an auto-populate type of a ship.
Yeah, I mean the Hilton. I will say when I used to have a Hilton Stage 2 tune on my V70R when I had it, and before I did like some major work to it, and it was very good. The tune was very smooth. It felt really good. It boosted great, and then we were having some boosting issues once we got to Stage 2 Plus with an updated intake and everything. But downpipe and Stage 2 tune was amazing on that car, and I think outside of that, it should be you can tune as much as you can, but just a Stage 2 and a downpipe on that car was phenomenal.
Yeah. So Justin comments that I'm missing the Australian accent. Look at the Gregson, she's a real beauty. I butchered that, but there you are.
Oi!
Oi!
Arr! That's all I got.
Yeah, right. Shrimp, Barbies, etc. Andrew, the S80 is still at the dealership because the service manager is having a hard time trying to find and track down that transmission seal for the S80. Interesting. Might not be a bad idea to check out FCP Euro if you haven't already. Sean goes, I have to resort to ostrich tuning my stock ECU and flashing the EPROM chips because red block. Sounds awful.
Yes.
The tuning process on the Mustang was run it on the dyno, send a file, run it on a dyno, send a file, have fun. Like,
yeah, yours was preposterously easy.
Yeah, it was
compared to what the Volvo community goes through.
Oh yeah, and I mean the Ford ECUs are actually incredibly powerful just because they're monitoring so many different things. Like, not only is it variable cam, not only is it like variable cam and all that other sort of stuff, but like it's sensing actual AFR, which means a wideband O2 sensor, which is good for tuning. It's monitoring intake air temps. It monitors so much that like an aftermarket ECU would monitor, or aftermarket ECU with the right peripherals, so that it's a pretty powerful ECU, the problem is that it's still factory. So like when you start getting into
Right.
more advanced tuning, and yes, there is such a thing as more advanced tuning than 700 wheel. A lot of guys like there's eventually down the road, after the bodywork, the big expense is I want to go to a Motec standalone for.
Where are you, by the way? I can't see you.
Oh right. Eventually down the road,
Ah, there he is.
I want to go to like a Motec ECU, just because there's so many different things you could put in there, so many different safeties you can put in there for the specific setup of the engine, right? So like it can be specific safeties to my car with the centrifugal supercharger, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It has, that's when you start getting into stuff like it can handle like no lift shift or no clutch shift. Like you basically just lift off the throttle and you can run through the gears to shift, kind of like,
Right.
or even the no lift stuff, just because the way my transmission's set up, it's more than capable of running it. You can run it to where it has like variable traction control. So you can have off, on, and like 3 or 5 settings in between, I think.
Oh, wow.
So that's pretty big. So you have programmable traction controls. So like, let's just say it's a drag. I take it to the drag strip. We can fine tune the TC to coincide with the available levels of grip. Similar type of thing if like we go to a road course, how much grip the car has and how much slip we want to actually allow and all that other sort of stuff. The problem is that for the PMP kit, it's like $6,000 to $7,000. It's a powerful tool, but it's not a cheap tool. So
Right.
that'll be after the bodywork, which, given the current landscape of things, I don't know when that's happening. But we'll see. At any rate, let's see here. Andrew goes, they found one from a Volvo dealership in Florida. They're delivering the part to the dealership. Fingers crossed it's the right seal. Absolutely. It's crazy how those things can be rare when they should be relatively generic sizing, right? Made out of this material and this size,
Right.
and this whatever. But Justin, keeping along the tuning lines, goes, tuning the GN, turn boost up, check the readings, add fuel, take readings, take timing out, check readings, pull timing, back, check readings, add methanol, check readings, add boost, check readings. At this point, after several test hits, I'm down to quite a bit of
Down quite a bit of fuel. Yeah, no kidding.
That's effectively how they tune on the dyno. If you ever watch someone build the tune, that's effectively what they're doing. Is
Yeah.
they're reading all of that stuff. The benefit to like an aftermarket ECU or even something like my ECU or my ECU and tuner is that it's like an aftermarket ECU. You can see it in real time. Mine, it's literally a USB connection and it uploads immediately, so the tuner can see it after the run and make adjustments.
Yeah,
there.
that's nice.
So like, there's a lot of it. I mean, let me put it to you this way: my Lexus, you couldn't do any of that to. Like the Lexus and the Toyota ECUs of that era were notorious for not being. You could not jailbreak them. There are people who worked on it, got something to work, and everybody gets excited, and then like 3 months later, the guy disappears, and you turned out his engine went kablamo, right? Like you can't get it. So like piggybacks or standalones was effectively all we could do, which was annoying. So that's why like I personally, if you have the chance and you have the money and can do it, a standalone is just gonna be such a non-headache down the road.
Yeah, it's a better scenario.
And not for nothing, you can find Haltech guys all over the country as opposed to trying to locate the one gnome who lives in, I have no idea, Georgia or Sweden or something, who can tune this specific engine from this specific year of Volvo.
Yeah.
And you have to make a literal blood sacrifice in his name to get him to tune it for you.
That sounds very Scandinavian.
Pretty much. Sean, I've toyed around the idea with twin charging my 940, given the turbo I'll be running on that new engine, but plumbing that. Yeah. Um, Twin charging always
Yeah,
sounds like a
plumbing that
great
stuff.
idea right up until the point you realize that for the same amount of money, you can just get a more efficient turbo that can run bigger boost, right?
Yeah.
Modern turbos are insane. Like compared to like the 80s, as Justin is aware of, where you could either get power or you and have lag or not make power and don't have lag. Like today's turbos spool so fast, comparatively speaking.
Yeah,
So
they
like
do.
the trickery to get around lag is, while it would be cool, don't get me wrong, it's once you go through the complexity and again tuning it, because it's just such a complicated system that a decent turbo is going to give you everything you want in that scenario. Or you just run a big ass supercharger. I don't know. Justin, I could only wish I could tune on a computer. Everything I'm doing is a manual adjustment. I mean, good on you for having that know how. I know if it was me, hard pass. But, I mean, you don't get a badass car like you have without that level of know how. So, I mean,
Right.
I'm looking forward to you getting it dialed in because it sounds like an insane vehicle, and I want to see it.
Yeah, it's gonna.
Sean goes, "Well, I was gifted a Cosworth Group B turbo. I'm hell bent on using that no matter what."
I
Okay.
would sell that turbo and buy a new turbo.
Um, I guess.
I mean, look, Cosworth Group B turbos is a cool thing to say,
But it's still a
but
1980s turbocharger.
that's what I was just gonna say. It's still an old tech turbo, and yeah, turbos aren't like it's not like they've made leaps and bounds of like differentiation because it's still just exhaust gases go here, spinny things happen, power goes out that way. Like that's how all turbos have worked since forever. But the the efficiency, the blade count, the
Material.
actual the material, the openings of input and output could be different. Honestly, there's just a lot that could go into it, and for that, you could sell that and just get a better turbo that's better suited for your car. That would be my recommendation. It's cool to be able to say that you have a Cosworth Group B turbo on it, but I would much rather have a turbo that's good for my car. That's just me.
Right. I mean, let me put it to you this way. It boils down to what you want. Because I guarantee you that turbo is going to be
Right.
nothing, nothing, nothing. Fire and brimstone. Oh my God. Shift. Nothing, nothing, nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, shift. Like, it's a cool thing to have. It's a cool thing to say. Um, but, like,
But
again, it's like everything with builds, right? What are you going to be
yeah,
doing with the car? What is your end goal for the car? Is it to have something that's cool in a conversation speak? Like, not for
yeah,
nothing. Just putting a normal modern turbo on that car, if you're in, say, our line of work where you're content creators, okay. But then if you're saying a Group B spec turbo, right? It'll be more interesting, more people, more eyeballs. But what would be the better thing to drive? The modern stuff, like
oh,
twin
definitely.
scroll stuff, like just all the modern advancements with turbos, the material, the fact that they're literally using billet now so they can get more for less weight. It's just a better bang for buck. But like I
It
said,
is.
if you want a conversation piece and something that's cool for like cars and coffee that are gonna attract some eyeballs, I totally get wanting to use
Yeah,
the Kazi the Kazi turbo.
yeah,
Oy.
agree.
Oh. Anywho, So just speaking of big 80s turbo things, Justin had an interesting point over in Shift Squad. And he said, here's an interesting topic, paraphrasing that first part, just manufacturers reusing parts from other models, like Ford using door handles off the Econoline van for their Ford GT. I just dealt with my grandfather's Alante having no brake lights, and it turned out GM used the same switch on his 92 Alante that's in my 87 Grand National. What other odd, interesting parts are manufacturers using? This one rung particularly interesting to us because we actually used to own a car that shares a lot with a completely different make, owned by the same company, parent company, but you wouldn't expect these two parts to ever cross path. And that, of course, was Greg's old Aston Martin and the fact that it had a lot of Volvo stuff on it.
Yeah, it really did. And that was made famous by the previous owner to me, but now current owner again, one Freddie Tavares Hernandez, because he famously went over the car and was like, hey, here's everything that kind of like wasn't made by Aston Martin. And you think Aston Martin, you think like, okay, cool, hand-built British exotic. The other thing is that Aston Martin and Volvo were both owned by Ford at the same time. So there was a lot of parts sharing going on that people sort of don't know about. And Freddie sort of made it famous because on the key fob, you can rip back the leather and it says Volvo underneath leather on the Aston Martin key fob, which is really funny because it's literally the same. I don't have my key on me, but I have a different key, a more modern key. But on the one side, you have like Volvo, and on the other side, the way it used to be, instead of this modern key has like the buttons on the side here in silver, you'd have them on this flat piece, and it would be lock, unlock, puddle lights, panic button, and then one other thing or whatever. And that's basically the same layout that Aston Martin had at the time. So it was that same button array, and it was the same thing for Volvo. And you just peeled back the leather, and it said Volvo right underneath. So really funny. But also, right here, what I'm pointing at is a wing mirror, or a side view mirror, where whatever you want to call it. On my V70R, the mirror caps, as well as I'm not sure about the whole mirror assembly, but the mirror caps themselves, you could take them off of a V70R and put it directly onto an Aston Martin V8 Vantage, and it would be the exact same thing. So there was all sorts of things, even those like little things like a mirror cap or a key. Yes, here you go. This is exactly what I was talking about. Thank you for queuing it up, Chad. So you see it's got lock, unlock. The yellow sort of gives you the puddle lights or the approach lights. And I think Freddie basically peeled this back and you were able to see. Oh, there it is. So yeah, that's the famous or infamous Volvo key, Aston Martin key, because it's the same thing and it's made by the same company. So yeah, that was that. Really kind of funny. But then you could kind of see like some of the switch gear in there too. Some of the buttons were also out of Volvos as well, which isn't a bad thing, I mean, it's good quality stuff. And yeah, it's just a really, really funny thing. But there's a lot of part sharing that goes on these days. I mean, especially when companies own multiple brands. You see it a lot in Jaguar Land Rover. Switchgear from F-Types are also in Range Rovers. So you see a lot of stuff sort of going back and forth. Ford is famous for it. You'd see, switches and buttons and stalks, on a, from a transit van that will all be in the Mustang, stuff like that. So I think you have one actually that was mentioned as well.
Well, I mean, it's not backtracking, but if you remember, so when we went down and picked up the Aston for you from Freddie, we sat.
I was not able to go. Point of clarification.
one of the things we got, he sold it so he could do the twin turbo Huracan build, the Lambo.
Gallardo.
There you go.
Yes.
But point being that this was back still when like Lambos had the dramatic engine, the slightly dramatic exterior. They looked the part. They went the part. They had all the stuff. But you sit in it, and all of the buttons are straight out of a Volkswagen like GTI or something.
Yeah.
Like all of the window buttons, all of the vents, all of that was straight Volkswagen. It's like I'm in a Lambo. I can see I'm in a Lambo, but I see Jetta. It was a weird
Yeah, it's a little odd.
Weird disconnect to sit in that. But like it's funny just because like say for like the Mustangs and stuff like that. Ford stopped making cars, so there's not the Mustang shares more components with a F-150 than it does any car, well, or crossover or whatever.
Right.
Like for the first two generations of Coyote, it was a similar block, different cams, different actually rotating assembly. But starting with the Gen 3s, literally everything with the exception of the manifolds is exactly the same. It's tuned slightly different because of the manifolds, because it's tuning for torque, not peak horsepower. But if you say were to put long tubes on it and say a PD blower, it would be theoretically make the same power as a Mustang, because it's the same 12-to-1 compression ratio. The whole everything is the same, and I thought that was pretty cool. Here's one, the A10. I think it's the A10 or the 10R80. I think whatever the name is for it, I forget. But the 10-speed automatic transmission that Mustang uses and the F-150 use was a project jointly developed between Ford and General Motors. So the 10 speeds are broadly the same between a Silverado and an F-150 with a 10-speed. It's pretty much the same transmission. That struck me as funny because you don't expect you expect FOMOCO to have parts transfer, right? Like you just expect it. Like even something like the mirrors on the Aston or the infotainment screen. It's just a different color, but it's straight C30. Like,
oh yeah, the infotainment screen from the V8 Vantage, it flipped up out of the dash, and then the same one in my V70R that rolled straight out of the dash. It's the same exact thing.
Yeah, the sat nav is the same, and it's both terrible.
They're awful.
The little screen that shows the radio station and your HVAC and all that other stuff again is legitimately just a different backlight instead of greenish hues. It's a more blue.
Yep.
But it's the same thing. I always thought that was interesting and stuff.
The transmission is also shared. I believe it's either Graziani or Graziano. It's a 6-speed. It's an Italian transmission. I believe that same transmission was in the Gallardo as well as the V8 Vantage. So it's another parts sharing thing. So connection there between Aston and Lamborghini. So another interesting one.
And it gets mildly less interesting, but Aisin, ZF, Getrag, Tremec, right? All of these transmission companies build transmissions for everyone. The T56 and its successor, the T66, is in Mustangs, Hellcats, Camaros. Obviously, the gearing's different because of the way the cars deliver power. But Tremec, that basically, if it's American and has a manual and isn't a base GT that has the Getrag MT82 that is trash. But all the upper at the GT350, the Mach 1, Camaros, Mopars all have some variation of a Tremec, which which is why those swaps are currently. Mark, welcome. We're happy to see you. Glad you could join us here. Doug, what were we working on in the shop? Anything of interest? And heck, even if you don't think it's interesting, let us know.
Yes.
No, but it's...
Please let us know.
Doug goes, third parties have been making transmissions for decades. Sure, sometimes they were made by the manufacturers, but it's probably the most long running third party part. 100%. Once companies figured out that they could spread the cost, or once companies figured out they could build a transmission and spread the cost over 10 manufacturers, let's say, or 20, 30 cars, just became a no brainer. I mean, if you go back, like, so if we look at, let's use General Motors as an example, right? If you go way back into their history, there was a 350 Chevy small block, then there was like a 355 Pontiac, then there was an equivalent Buick down the lines. Now, they may have shared the chassis, but each of the GM brands were making their own V8s. And then eventually someone was like, if we just made one, we could probably save some money or make more money or whatever, right?
Pretty much.
So it's like, it's a lot of that stuff. And then, I mean, look at the famous story of the ruination of Saab, right? Saab had their own way of doing things. They were very fastidious about the details and making sure everything met their lofty engineering standards. And when GM bought them, it's like, look, you're hemorrhaging money doing it this way. What we want you to do is restyle this and slap a Saab badge on it. That's it. And Saab was like, yeah, sure. And then a GM exec goes and looks at the car and it's like, where'd you get that infotainment system? Oh, we made it ourselves. And it's like, oh. And then GM was like, well, they don't want to listen. We can't make money with these guys. And that's, that was the sad end of Saab.
Yeah.
But, anywho, Doug is working on a 1935 International Harvester LA stationary mower. Jimmy asks,
stationary
thoughts
mower
on the TR6060. I'm a bit of a Tremec file. I've yet to hear anything really of note from anything Tremec. I would have probably done a Tremec in Mustang if it wasn't for the fact that I effectively have. It's like the, what is it? I forget the movie, but it has Sony guts, right? The case.
Oh, you don't mess with the Zohan,
right? So
one of the most quoted movies ever that no one remembers.
But like you could build the inside of the MT82 for cheaper than it would have taken to have an equivalently strong T56 XL Magnum. We were pushing the limits of what that handles. We would have had to go to like a stage 2 or a stage 3, and now we're talking $9,000 all in. Where I did it, and effectively, like I said, the gear set is it's made to work with an MT82, but it's design. It's G-Force, right? G-Force makes insane gear sets. It's designed to not mimic the T56 is the wrong word, but like effectively, like I said, if I wasn't pushing the power I was pushing, it would have a T56 in it. But it's just, Calmer does great work, and I've yet to have a problem with my transmission, and I actually like a little bit of the whine that it provides. It's not race car, but it's not also not. It's like between a regular road car and straight cut gears, right? So I still have.
I was just gonna say,
and it shifts fine. The one thing I'm struggling with that I'm actually trying to practice before I get to the track is that I'm shifting so much faster now because of the short throw and the better engagement that like getting the timing of off clutch on gas on the shifts is I have to be a lot more precise. So it's like instead of like womp womp womp, it's womp bomb. Like it hits hard when I get on the gas again. So like before I get to the track, I need to sort of figure that out so I don't spin the tires on a 2.3 or God forbid a 3.4.
Yeah.
Doug goes, There are a few occasions in history where manufacturers use junkyard parts for new production cars. I can think of at least two. Tucker used old cord transmissions, and just learned about the company from Cali called Powell that made interesting trucks in the 1950s and used old 1940s Plymouth parts. I'm just saying, Doug, that sounds like the project you should be building.
Yes, that is a Doug centric build if I've ever heard one.
Just like that 4-speed GM transmission that was used in the P2 Volvo's S80S and especially the S80 T6. But luckily, I got the later, better version of the older ones. Nice. The 4T.
Yeah, those 4-speeds are trash. Mark knows what it is. The 4T60. And yes, I chuckle in all-wheel drive at that.
Right. I mean, well, here's the thing, right? If I wanted just a pure missile point and shoot, kind of idiot-proof quarter-mile weapon, I would have gotten the 10-speed Mustang. It's as simple as
right,
that.
exactly.
Those things are lightning. They can be. It's crazy what you can do with them. Like, they can be programmed to where you can program what gear it goes into when it upshifts. So, like, I think on the 10 speeds, don't quote me on this, but like instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and etc., if you're really on it, it holds first gear a lot longer, and it goes like 1, 3, 5, 9, 10, or something like that. Like
interesting.
I don't know if that's the exact order, but I know it skips gears, just because when you're driving performance, you don't need that extra gear to keep you at like 2,000, 1,500 RPM.
Double clutching, not skipping gears like you should.
There's so much wrong with that statement. Double clutching was a thing back in the 60s when synchros didn't exist.
I know. And I know how bad it sounds in a movie, too.
Oh, it sounded even worse when I was in college, and there was a parking lot that was good enough to do about eighth mile. And we would, after baseball practice, bunch of car nuts. We would take, my one buddy had a GSR Integra, another guy had what's the hot WS6 Firebird, I think it was, the Gen 4. Cheese wedge Camaro, and the Firebird looked significantly better. One of my buddies had one of those. I had a Focus in various states of tune, and we would go, and like, I forget the one guy had a Civic with like a B16B in it or something like that. It was pretty hot setup. And he's like, I don't understand what I lost. I was double clutching the whole way down. We just look at him like, that is unnecessary. Like, completely unnecessary. You have synchros. Well, maybe you don't.
Maybe you've blown them out. What's up, Joey? Thanks for joining, dude. Good to see you.
Doug, oh yes, I sure could use another project. What I'm suggesting is replacing projects with project.
Yes.
Just saying.
Just part the project Z and just focus on the one.
Yes, an old Plymouth, California pickup truck held with cords, I think was what you were saying.
Something like that.
It sounded good in my head. Doug confirms WS6. Yeah, that was actually... How we never actually got in trouble for doing that is beyond me. Like, I understand we were there late, but like some of the cars were not subtle. Like my buddy's, the Firebird, that had long tubes and it was rowdy. Joey, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, we did have a pretty awesome weekend. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed yours as well.
With your V8 Volvo.
Oh, is he with the V8 swap Safari?
Volvo? No swap. No. Joey is the guy with the S80 V8 that I drove on channel, and he was at He's at Carlisle. He's been to a bunch of stuff. We drove up to the FCP Euro meet together. That was fun. But yeah, no, local, just over in PA.
Nice, Justin.
Yeah.
But what if needs a break from another project? Not entirely sure what language that was. Then he has the option to go to another project for a break. Oh, I get it now. Getting a break from one project to go to the other. I remember those days. I am not fine. Then I was like, you know what? If I just have one project, I can make it insane. And that's...
Yes. That's the way to do it. Are your allergies going crazy too? Because I can't stop sniffing.
Dude, it has been bad. Like, I had the 7-year shift, and like my allergies
horrible.
actually weren't that bad for a while. Like, but when they did hit, I would actually get vertigo because like instead of the sinus pushing out this way through like the nose and like your eye, it was pushing on my inner ear.
Ooh, yeah.
So I don't have that, but like, man, this year's been dog shit for allergies. Holy crap.
Yeah, it's bad. Well, the entire inside of my face just itches.
And then I get on this yawning
Like,
train. I'm not
sinuses.
crazy tired, but like I get on a yawning train and forget about it.
Yeah, same.
Joey goes, I took the Volvo out Saturday, but overall a good weekend. Got a secondary quad to rewire in the garage before I go to Iceland Saturday. Iceland.
Nice. That is gonna be
That's
gonna be a hell of a trip.
That's
I'm
actually
very jealous.
one of the places I like want to travel to. Like,
Yeah,
Iceland's
same.
up there. I still really want to go to Cuba.
Be right back.
I still really want to go to like Cuba or something like that, just because the car culture down there is nuts and it's so different and cool. Japan is another one, just to experience the different degrees of car culture that is out there. Like, I may not be a big fan of like the Bozazuku style, but I love the creativity that a lot of they have, just making do with what they got. That is 100% like somewhere I want to go. Justin, I type too fast too sometimes. Happens to the best of us, my dude. I got the gist in the end. Andrew is tired because he's worked the last 3 days. I know that feeling. One of the things I actually enjoy the most right now is my schedule, because since I left the golf course, I have time. It is actually a beautiful thing. I slept in the other day till like 8:30, 9 o'clock, but not working 60, 70 hours a week is gorgeous, beautiful. Joey, he'll be in Iceland for 14 days. If you guys want the itinerary afterwards, just let me know. Going across the whole island. Nice. Definitely want to check out the other countries as well. Love traveling. That's awesome, man. Are you doing any of like the off-roading tours or something like that? Like, there's some crazy stuff in Iceland. I think there are these buses that look like your normal charter bus, but they're like sitting on 45s or something crazy, like tractor tires, just so they can go everywhere. I think Hansen took a reel of one of those when he was over in Iceland, so that's pretty awesome. Doug collects projects just in case I get filthy rich and don't have to work anymore. I'll just be able to keep busy. If that fails, then I'll have lots of cool stuff for my daughter to find homes for when I kick the bucket. Okay, that took a turn. 12 hours is draining. Absolutely, my dude. Well, hopefully you get some rest, man. It's important. As someone who didn't get a lot of sleep in the last 4 months, sleep, you have no idea how important sleep is until you don't get a lot of it. It affects you in ways, like I would have like brain fog or brain lag or something like that, where I was like, I know the answer to this, and then like that, and it was just from not sleeping enough. So definitely sleep is important. If definitely get some rest. Andrew also goes, I want to go to Japan and Europe for the car culture as well. Yeah, that's exactly like, so I travel for exactly 2 reasons now. Might change, but I either travel for like car stuff, car related stuff, i.e., Carlisle, which I know was just 2 days, but that constituted a vacation under my schedule at the time. And and golf. Like going to the beach and sitting on a beach for 8 hours or 6 hours, 8 hours a day doesn't really entertain me. But cars and golf, those are my two passions. So that's what that is what I am willing to travel for. Although, like I said, that might change. Depends on the company. Greg and I have actually kicked around some ideas about doing a road trip series for food. Well, I think we've talked about it here. So like that'll be interesting as far as like driving around for that stuff. Uh, Justin, my weekend was going great right up until the New Hampshire State Police did not approve of the GN going slightly faster than allowed. I feel like there's shared blame there, but that sucks. I mean, uh, depending on how fast you were going. Look, we've all gotten speeding tickets. We've all dealt with cops who have a vendetta. You know, you were going 7 miles an hour over the speed limit, and there was their way of exercising their power or something like that. Now, I don't mean to blanket cops in general. Most of the cops I've ever dealt with are phenomenal. Um, but some will target you based on the vehicle you're driving, which is less than ideal. Joey goes, there's a one tour we were doing for an ice cave. Awesome. But most of the things are free / just pay for parking. That's awesome. Lots of waterfalls and abandoned ships, plains, and beaches, and mountains and volcanoes. That's pretty awesome. Like, that's why Iceland is so cool. Like, it's got all this awesome stuff. It's relatively untouched, like, i.e., not crazy industrialized and everything. It's a beautiful country from everything I hear. So, and then he goes on, and yeah, definitely saw some of Hanson's videos. Excited me more for the trip. That's awesome. Mark goes, Carlisle was 100% a vacation. Definitely. And I definitely needed it. The week after, not so much, but Carlisle itself was actually pretty awesome. Justin goes, I mean, realistically, it wasn't bad. I was definitely going much faster than 5 over, but we cut me some slack. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Like, a lot of times, if you're not being reckless, they'll kind of cut you a break, make you pay a bigger fine, or a fine. You know, they just don't want to see people being complete and utter jackwagons. Like how Greg drives. I mean, oh, hey, Greg. I don't know why you're quiet, Greg.
Sorry, I muted myself. Yeah, of all of the three of us, I probably drive the most safe due to extra passengers in the rear seat now.
Because you went and procreated like a dumbass.
That's right.
All right. But Greg, we were talking about a bunch of different things, but I'm going to step aside for a moment. Why don't you regale chat with top 3 destinations you would want to travel to with and without your kids? And why?
Top 3 destinations to travel to both with and without my kids. Okay. Ooh, good one. All right. So without my kids, it's probably easier for me because it's mostly car related. I would love to, I think Andrew Campbell, you mentioned this in chat. I definitely want to go to Japan for the car culture. I think that'd be really cool. Same thing for Germany, actually. Those are 2 of them. Just because Autobahn, Nürburgring, and then Japan, Tsukuba, Suzuka, just like the overall car culture, I think it would be a really cool thing to do. And then last one without the kids. I don't know. That's a tough one. I've never been, but I've always wanted to go to Canada. I'm a big hockey fan. I've always wanted to see an NHL game in Montreal, just because it's like such a big thing. I would love to see like a Maple Leafs Canadiens game in Montreal. I think that would be really cool, just because I'm a huge hockey fan, and that's sort of like where hockey originated, in North America. So that would be kind of neat. With my kids, Bermuda, just because of the nostalgia, because I always went there as a kid. My parents honeymooned there, and when my dad got like a bonus every year, he basically, that was where our family vacation was. So I wouldn't want that to be our normal family vacation every year, but I want to take my kids there because it's a cool experience and just to like have that tie in with them. From my childhood to their childhood, I think it'd be cool. Definitely want to take them to Seattle just to see family out there, but also because it's where the Seahawks are. That's my favorite NFL team. And we have family, but it's also just a cool city. And then where else do we want to go with the kids? Man, I don't know. Probably to take them somewhere in Europe. So maybe the UK. We have family there. But just to give them, like more culture in that way, to bring them to Europe. My wife and I honeymooned in France and Italy. Either one of those places would be cool to take them. Like Paris or Florence and Rome in Italy, that kind of stuff. So like those are some cool places that I think would be really neat to bring the kids. Let's see. What did you guys say here? Antoine, what's up, man? You guys cutting up on the expressway post Carlisle with the cops? No, we were not doing that at all. Not a thing that was happening for sure. Carlisle was so much fun. Yeah, agree. Already registered again. Nice. We'll probably register again soon too. It's a fun time. It really is for sure. Let's see. What was this comment? I mean, realistically, it wasn't too bad. I was definitely going much faster than 5 over, but he cut me some slack. Yeah. And then Sean responded, one could use that argument. Well, yes. I didn't realize my Volvo could go that fast, officer. That's always a good one. Joey says Montreal is absolutely beautiful. That's what I've heard, man. I really want to go. I really want to go badly, not for the hockey aspect, but also because I've heard it's just gorgeous and it's just a really nice city. So I really want that. No one suspects the Volvo. No one wants to see Hole. Don't go to Seattle to see Hole. No. Let's see. Iceland and Sweden are top 2. Yeah, those are 2 places I would like to go as well. Sweden's probably up there. Antoine, don't you have a passport? Canada is like the first place everyone should go. Plus, you're right above Canada. That's easy to go to. That's literally drivable distance from you and from PA to Canada. I'm actually in New Jersey, but same thing. But yes, it is drivable. It's just someplace I've never gone, honestly. I never really traveled north. I have family up in Maine, so I never really had the want to go to Canada, just because I'm already up north, and in Maine you're north of almost a lot of Canada, in the southern tip of Canada. So I never really needed to go to Canada to like see like the nature aspect, because I was in Maine every year of my life, and I still go every year of my life with my wife and kids. So it's one of those things that it never really kind of came up when I was growing up, but now I do want to go, because I think my wife has been once. She said it was awesome, so I do want to kind of just see like the nature aspect of it as well, but also just it's a beautiful city, and it's a cool drive. So I would love to drive it. Don't know if that would be a thing, but that would be cool. I did not get your whole reference, Mark. If you're talking about the band, that's what I was talking about. Other than that, I don't know what that reference was. Let's see. Andrew got a camping spot for next year. Good. Yeah, absolutely. That's the way to do it. Let's see what else we got. My bad, I meant to say New Jersey. Yeah, no, it's fine. It's the same thing. When you're talking travel distance, PA, New Jersey are basically the same thing if you're going north. Chad, are you back?
Si, senor.
Chad. There he is. He speaketh.
Yes. No, I would love to go to the Montreal GP.
That would be a very cool one. Absolutely, yes.
I just think, I want to go to all the F1 I can, just because, I really wanted to do the one in Vegas, but F that, it's like 10 G's starting. It's just so much.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, and that's why, I know Hansen went to Austin, but going to one like Montreal or anything abroad really is going to be insanely expensive. Even Canada, Mexico would be crazy expensive.
That'd be cool.
Montreal,
I'd
crazy
love to sit in
expensive.
the old baseball stadium right there.
Yes,
That's
that would be
very
cool.
That's such a cool feature for a track, and that's something that's kind of
really
lost
is.
on a lot of the TIFA tracks that's built now, just because of how runoffs. You have the classic tracks, you have the new modern tracks, and the new modern not for nothing, but all of the Middle East tracks just blur into one amorphous track to me. At any rate, Sean, I hope to have both of my Volvos at Carlisle next year, but one is a much bigger project than the 940. Hey, it's good to have goals and a timeline. Having a deadline, like when I was doing the C30 and having the deadline of the Dragon, really lit a fire under my ass to get it done. Antoine goes, would you suggest the legendary Monaco? I'm going to give a hot take on this one. 100% no. That track is...
It's not a hot take. I'm with you.
That track is... Look, I get the pomp and circumstance. I get the glitz. I get the glamour. If any race screams F1, it's that race, right? But that track is so ill-suited for the modern F1 car that it's... The race itself... the experience would probably be otherworldly. I could probably have a fairly nice home for the cost of attending. But that track just doesn't... It's outdated. It's just there's no action whatsoever on that track.
No, that track has been outdated for F1 cars since 19. I'm not interested in watching a parade anymore. I don't even watch the Monaco Grand Prix anymore. I don't even watch qualifying. I don't think it's a good track at all. Even by modern standards, there are so many better tracks that F1 can go to.
And it's I'd rather go to Monza.
Monza's cool.
Even Silverstone, even though they redid it, but I would rather go to places like that, the old classics that are actually set up to have racing and not look, I get the appeal of Monaco from a strictly holy crap, look at the money involved here. I get that aspect.
Oh yeah.
But the racing is just dull. It's boring. There's one half of a passing spot on the entirety of the track. I watched a little bit of the highlights from Monaco this year, and it was raining, but it didn't matter. And that's the other thing. I wanted to start doing a series of reels on motorsport and stuff like that, and F1, just to try to capitalize on F1's popularity and stuff like that. But this F1 season has sucked. If you're a fan of Max, I'm sure it's been great, but it's just been so anticlimactic. The Astons being fast in the beginning was enough to hold my interest, but the only way you make this F1 season entertaining is you get Max the championship as fast as possible, and then he goes on vacation. And you put Danny Ricciardo in the car, and you see if you can have 1, 2, and 3 in the driver's standings in one team. That's the only way.
That would be insane.
That's the only way this F1 season becomes anything remotely resembling interesting. And it sucks because they had such good momentum, but it's amazing how good of a car you can build when you break the rules. And you spend more money developing something. It's kind of like how back in the late 90s, early and 2000s when the Yankees were really, really good. They just outspent everyone.
Right.
I'm not saying it's a direct one-to-one comparison there, but it's just they got a slap on the wrist. If you in a new regulations, if you can just get a step ahead of someone or the field, it's huge dividends down the road. Like they have to play catch up just to equal you, and if you make just the slightest adjustment, you're still faster than everybody else. So it's like,
Yeah.
and that's the thing that kind of ticks me off. I think the head of Ferrari made a joke about it to Red Bull, about Red Bull and everything, and and this is what ends up happening. And now you have a parade. Like Mercedes dominated for years, but somehow there managed to be something resembling drama in it. This one, like I said, the only way you save the season is if you tell Max to win as soon as possible and then to just piss off for the rest of the season. And then I'd actually root for Red Bull if Ricciardo was driving. But
yeah, same.
Nicholas, welcome welcome back to the stream. Let's see. Wow, we got a lot of comments. Let's see here. Mark goes, if I travel for motorsports, I think Goodwood Festival of Speed is very high on that list. I would have to agree, just because variety alone is worth it. Mm-hmm. It's actually funny you mentioned that. We'll circle back to that in a moment. To see the F1 cars race through the city would be crazy, especially for the first timers who've never been there. I don't disagree with that sentiment, but after like 10 laps, it's the same order. It's the same order. Ooh, wait, that girl's topless on the boat. Like, I don't know, man. It's different horses, different course. Like, right? Like, if you look at I look at F1. I'm a race fan. The on-track action to me is almost as important as the venue itself. Like, do some of the classic tracks have a little bit more weight to them? Yes, but a lot of the best racing happens on the newer tracks. And I understand Tilke tracks kind of blend into very similar styling. They just use different paint colors for the runoff areas. But at least the on-track stuff can be pretty good. Mark is heading to Sweden to witness the Volvo 240 rally races that are still held. Sounds excellent, too. Absolutely. Antoine goes, hey, what are both your opinions about Aston Martin teaming up with Honda for F1? If you haven't talked about that, or if I missed that conversation coming into chat late in the game. Look.
We have not chatted about that yet.
It's interesting to me because of the simple fact that the Aston road cars, and I understand there's one's an F1 car, one's a road car, but Aston has a partnership with Mercedes for their road cars. And now they're going to Honda. But here's the thing, right? It's F1. If you can get the hot motor, especially with these cars, with downforce is not as plentiful as it's been, being able to punch with that straight line speed is a huge advantage. Just look at, since we've gone to the V6 turbo hybrid era, the most powerful engine has won, or let me rephrase that. The most powerful works engine in a works team has won the F1 Constructors title. It was Mercedes for all those years, and then it was Red Bull. And Red Bull, the Honda power plant. You know who probably is like just hating life at this point? McLaren. So they're like, oh, sure. As soon as we get rid of them, they become good, right? It's like,
literally literally the year after.
It's like dating that girl who's nothing but crazy. You're like, oh, she could be great, but just man, she's insane. And then a year and a half later, seeing her with someone and she's not crazy. It's like,
totally like a grounded human.
Let me put it to you this way: I'm all for anything that brings more teams into the fight. I don't like spec racing, which is why I love F1 because everyone has to kind of design their own thing. Even though there is a lot of copycatting involved in it, but you can't just simply say, "Oh, Red Bull's side pod design is dominating everyone. Let me just slap it on a Mercedes." Well, it's not going to work with the rest of the car, but there's a lot of similar design theories, right? Like the Aston Martin and the Red Bull share a lot of similar ideas. That's why I love F1. The problem with that is usually he who spends the most wins. And you end up with, not necessarily this year, but in years past, 2 teams fight it out. Maybe a third gets into it. So you end up with a grid of 20 cars where 6 realistically are going to win on any given day. That's the issue that you run into that style of racing. But if, let's just say, the aero package in the Aston isn't what's holding it back, it's actually the Mercedes power plant, you drop a Honda in it, maybe they're a little more competitive. Maybe, that's what the price cap was supposed to do. And that's, why I'm just not a fan of the penalty that Red Bull received for exceeding it. It's a rule. If you exceed track limits, you too many times or by a certain extent, your race gets nuked via penalty. This is exceeding track limits, but on a much larger scale.
Yeah.
But
the way Christian Horner responded to that is just like, $9 million. What was it? $7 or $9 million. Honestly, it doesn't even matter. It's sort of arbitrary, but like, this amount is really hampering us for the next season. I'm like, no, it's not. You've nailed it already. You know for a fact that $9 million is not going to do jack shit for your next season. You've already nailed it. You know the new specs. You're the winning team. You only need to make tweaks, and you're probably going to dominate this era. That is how Mercedes did it. It is how Ferrari did it. It is how McLaren did it before them. It's how all these teams that have 4 and 5 and 6 year runs of greatness, they figure it out, and then they only make tweaks because everyone else is trying to play catch up. When everyone else is trying to play catch up, you don't need to really do anything until someone catches you. And that's what happened at the end of the previous turbo hybrid era when Red Bull finally got Mercedes, right?
Right. Well, but here's the thing.
They didn't really get Mercedes, but they equaled them, controversy or not, they equaled them that season. And then as soon as the specs changed, Red Bull nailed it. Now they're the ones.
If you go back throughout history and look at F1 in recent history, right? The end of a rule set is when the racing's the best. Like you'd mentioned Red Bull, Mercedes fighting it out. I remember Red Bull, and I forget who it was, at the end of the V8, the NA V8.
Ferrari.
Right.
Because it was Alonso in the Ferraris.
It was similar in the V10 era. Like, that's where, here's the thing. If you have a finished product, like you said, taking money out of the tweaking budget means more to say than to Mercedes, who probably has to do a complete rethink of their car. So that $9 million would make a huge difference to someone like them. But when you already spent it and was that's why I think it was on purpose. It was look, what are they going to do? Are they really going to have the balls to strip us or take points away or do any of that sort of stuff?
Yeah.
Are they really going to have the balls to do that? We don't think they do. So we're just going to push the envelope. And imagine if you gave these other teams that extra little bit of money. Imagine what they could have done and had a more finished product to it. And that's why I honestly think it's okay, a fine is one thing. Here's the bottom line. With most of these big teams, $9 million, the owners of these teams find that in their couches. It's not a significant amount of money. So Red Bull prints money. It's basically it.
They really do.
I would have loved to have seen him have a 10 or 20 pound weight limit, or be here's your penalty.
Oh, a balance of power kind of thing.
A ballast. You went over by $5-10 million for every 500,000 you went over. Here's 5 kilograms or something. And it would it would negate some of the advantage gained by spending the extra money, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Nicholas goes, well, hopefully the Mustang guy I took to the cruise ship in Seattle the other day joined. I told him about y'all, and he seemed excited to watch. Awesome, man. Thanks. We appreciate all of
it. Thank you. Boots on the ground. Tell your friends.
Yes.
More car people to talk to.
Andrew, my dad has a 2017 2017 Volvo XC90 T6 Inscription model, black with the red leather. I've driven it 2 years ago, and it was so nice. I absolutely love it. Greg, how are you liking your similarly arid XC90?
As an owner of almost that car, but not Inscription, it's wonderful. So wonderful that we're going to be selling it. But nothing to do with the car. The car is rock solid. It's great. Just, time for a new car with a warranty because, God forbid mine goes down. I got to pay for that. And if my wife's goes down, don't want to pay for that as well. So probably going to end up, selling that over the next month or two and getting something new.
Trackhawk.
Oh, man. If only.
Hey, nothing's safer than being able to out-accelerate your problems.
Yes. Nothing is safer than what Chad just said, which is not true at all.
I could convince Kate.
I beg you to try.
It would make for an interesting vlog.
Please do. Please do. Oh, yeah, it really would.
So, Kate, hear me out.
This might be the best one we ever do.
Hear me out. Do you want to be the coolest mom?
In which case, she will respond, no.
Does she want to be the...
Your argument is immediately done.
You'd be very persuasive. Although not with women, so that might be null and void right there. But, no, we'll get her a 6x6. That's safe.
Yes, definitely. So safe that you could run over all of your opposition.
Ashton asks, what are you planning on selling it for as for a different car? What are you thinking about replacing it with, Gregson? Obviously, Trackhawk, top of the list.
Well, I mean, if it was me, there's a bunch of different cars or a bunch of different SUVs that we'd go with. But for Kate, there is only one. It is the Hyundai Palisade.
A friend of mine just got a Telluride.
Which is quite a good SUV. Telluride, she doesn't like the looks of. And most people like that better than the Palisade, but I'm also in that boat. There are a couple things on the Palisade I like better. The rear taillights I like a lot better on the Palisade.
Palisade's
I'm not a huge fan of those. Like Palisade is definitely a more luxurious looking vehicle. The Telluride I think is still a better looking vehicle.
You just think it looks like a Stinger on stilts.
But the Telluride?
I don't know. All Kias blend together. I don't think they nailed the you know how everyone goes to like logos are for chumps. We need people to recognize our grills from 10 miles away. So everyone has a bespoke grill. I don't think the Kia grill works well in anything outside of the Stinger, if I'm honest.
You mean K backwards N?
No, not even the logo. The grill itself. How it looks like, I don't even know. But I've never, it doesn't look right to me. And it hasn't grown on me like the Hourglass from Lexus.
Yeah, I actually really love the Hourglass from Lexus now. I hated it at first, and after like 3 or 4 years of it, I'm just like, okay, this is good. And the way they've evolved it now, it just looks really nice. A lot of people still don't like it, but I'm a big fan.
So when they just slapped it as like a front end refresh on the cars, it didn't look quite right. When they designed the car as an entirety around that styling ethos, that's when it took off. Like I didn't like it on the IS when it first came out, but I loved it on the RC and I love it on the new IS 500.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Holy shit, I can't stop yawning.
That's okay.
That is by no way a reflection on the conversation, by the way.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I was going to say, it might be time to call it early tonight. Just because it's Memorial Day. I'm exhausted. I know you're tired. I'm sure everyone else watching is tired after a nice long weekend of drinking, celebrating, and just being generally wonderful, awesome people that we are. So I think you have one more thing you wanted to show, and then we can probably call it there.
I forget who mentioned.
Going back to the Goodwood
Yes,
comment.
I think that was Mark. But
yes, saying he wanted to go Goodwood Festival of Speed was on his bucket list, which it also is on ours, by the way.
Yes. Let's do this. All right, so we'll start with, this is a C11 Mercedes Group C car. I think it's a Group C car. It might be on, no, that was the CT. At any rate, beautiful noise.
It's a Group C car.
What's that?
That's a Group C car.
LMGT or GTP. I was trying to figure out what it morphed into. Same rule set, just different name. But this was the predecessor to the ones that flipped, in case anyone was wondering. Sounds so good. And it's muted.
Cars.
I always forget to hit that button. Hanging it out too. I thought it was that is one of the best sounds.
Now you see what Kyle Lewis.
Well, Banana Ball.
Banana Ball's great.
And as
it's probably not supercharger whine, Mark. It's probably these straight cut gears that you're hearing.
Oh, it's 100% the transmission. That's a turbocharged car. Turbo V8.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah. My Mustang actually makes a little tiny bit of that noise that I love because it's not beating you over the head because like straight cut gears, it's like you hear it constantly. This one, like when I'm coasting and I downshift or something, you hear the whine. I have to figure out how I can capture all that on video because like one of the things I love about my Mustang is the ancillary noise.
Yeah.
Like not just the noise out of the tailpipe, but like the sounds the supercharger makes, the sounds the transmission makes, like all that stuff. It's very streetable, but it also gives like major league race car vibes.
Yeah.
And then for Greg, he submitted this for your approval.
Because great car ever made.
Looks terrifyingly bumpy.
Well, it's someone's driveway, so.
So, I would have the Mercedes 10 out of 10 with that.
As far as sound is concerned, the Mercedes wins.
So, let's see here.
Yeah.
A supercharged Mercedes race car sounds crazy. Actually, supercharging was very prevalent in the early-ish days of Formula One, up until like Aeros started becoming a thing, and Cosworth just changed the game with Lotus. And those. But like supercharged 2.5 liter V12s or something like crazy. I think Alpha made one of those or something like that. Just nuts. But like those old Mercs were so good. Mark goes, the McLaren got me, but I'm biased. What am I missing? I guess you're not German. They both sound like, let me put it this way. Legendary race cars, they're legendary because they not only win, but they look and sound epic. Like I think the McLaren F1 GTR Longtail is one of the most beautiful looking race cars ever made. But those Sauber Mercs, man, oh my gosh. And the funny thing was they took a detuned version of that V8 NA and slapped it in some of their sedans. I think we both got the same alert possibly. But so I show you that stuff because like the golden era of sports car racing was Group C, and I'm really looking for Le Mans. We were talking about traveling earlier. I would love to go to
Le Mans.
That is a bucket list event for me because my favorite form of motorsport is sports car racing. And we have a little bit of it now with GTP and LMH and all those cars. Super excited. Greg is echoing. That is for your earballs' pleasure, Doug. I do it for you. But,
right.
I think that's where we're going to call it. We'll be back with a full-length stream next Monday.
Yes.
So we're looking forward to that.
We'll be less tired.
Yeah. We'll try. Mid-60s Indy cars, they absolutely. Yep. Doug probably knows about the turbine car from that 60s or 70s and the diesel that raced at Indy. But those could be two things we talk about next time. That's right.
Next time.
Hanger. Next time.
Yes.
On Shifting Lanes Garage. But at any rate, everyone, thank you for tuning in. I know it was a bit of a short one. We'll get you to next week. But I'm Chad. That's Greg. Hi, Kate, who I think just was in the garage. But everyone, thanks for watching.